were back in record time.
Welcome to Voices of Harpswell, hosted by Harpswell's Bicentennial Project of the American Grange with funding by the Maine Bicentennial Commission. In this series of interviews with people from all geographic sections of Harpswell, from all ages and interests, we hope to compile a picture of Harpswell today in this tumultuous year of 2020, the 200th anniversary of Maine's statehood. Today we have with us a person who has made a big difference in Harpswell in the way we look at food and where our food comes from, and who with her family has redefined the story of commercial agriculture in Harpswell. So will you tell us your name and a little bit about how you came to Harpswell?
Okay, I'm Laura Terrell Grady, and we came here in 2009. We came in search of land within about a 30-mile radius of our parents. That's how we found Harpswell. We looked on the Maine FarmLink website, and we were looking for land to lease. And we found this place on Maine FarmLink, and we were so excited. It was, I think, 36 miles from our parents, but close enough. And we pursued looking into it, and that's how we found being here in 2009.
Well, because it's kind of an unusual situation that you have with two coves, right?
Yes, yeah.
Can you describe it a little bit?
Sure. The farm itself has been there for over 200 years and had been in the same family, I think, until 2005. I might have that date wrong, but it was around there. And then the farm came up for sale, and it was nearly purchased by a developer out of Lewiston who was going to put houses in the fields. And a local family didn't want to see that happen, so they won in an auction. They outbid the developer, I believe, to buy this land to conserve it, because the family who bought it didn't want to see one of the last open farms in Harpswell go, which there had been so many on the neck. And Walter Norton had grown up on a farm right across the neck from the Dunning farm, which is what Two Coves Farm is. And he and his wife, they said, you know, we don't want this farm to go to development. And so they bought it to preserve it. And then they didn't know what to do. They weren't sure, what are we going to do with it? You know, who's going to farm it? And they kind of looked around for a while and couldn't find somebody who would farm it in a way that would preserve the integrity of the farm, perhaps, or the history of the farm. And they ultimately sought out Maine Farmland Trust. They have a program called FarmLink, which links farmers with landowners. And that's how we found them. It was listed on this program called FarmLink.
Wow.
And, you know, it looked way too good to be true on the computer. You know, we looked at it like, oh my God, 80-something acres on the coast. There's no way we could do that. But, you know, being young and just like, well, it doesn't hurt to try. So we contacted them and came and visited on a wicked cold November day. Oh my God, it was so cold. But we fell in love with the place. And the fields, and we just couldn't even believe it. Like, wow, this place is, you know, in mid-coast area and is a farm that you can do grazing, like you could just land there and start farming, which is kind of unheard of. So we contacted them, saw it, loved it, and we started a great relationship. To this day, we really appreciate them so much.
Well, and you have such a variety of things that you do there. Because what about animals? What do you have now in the way of animals? You've got all sorts, right?
We have all sorts. So we are primarily a livestock operation, which we utilize the clay soils that we have in Harpswell. It's really suited much better to livestock than vegetables. So we farm beef cows. We have pasture-raised eggs, pasture-raised lamb, pasture-raised pork. Am I missing anything? We used to do turkeys. We don't do turkeys anymore. We do meat birds, meat chickens. We're doing close to 1,000 this year of meat chickens. They're slaughtering today. And we do some gardens, we do sell some produce. We only grow produce that we can also feed to the pigs and chickens because we don't want to waste. We don't waste a thing. We sell pumpkins in the fall, and all of the ones that look kind of funny and don't sell, or ones that aren't going to go for food, go for the animals.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, now, because you use the word pasture raised, and people hear that a lot, but I'm not sure people understand exactly how you guys do pasture raised.
Yeah. So all of our animals live outside. On the pasture. They are free to eat bugs, grasses, plants, they're free to roam around as they should. And it's we're really small scale. That's something that's kind of an interesting thing in Maine in particular. We would be extremely small, say if we were out in the Midwest or something. In Maine, we're kind of mid-size. We have about 30 beef cattle that we lease a field also in Brunswick. We've expanded so that we can't house that many cows on our land in Harpswell, so we lease a field in Brunswick. But we have about a flock of about 100 sheep, and that is a full cycle for us. We do breeding of sheep, we lamb, then we have the lambs and the ewes go out on pasture, and they're a full cycle, what would be the word I'm looking for there? Crop, I guess.
Yeah, crop.
Yeah.
Because you sell the wool too, right?
We do, yeah. We sell the wool to a wool
mill
mill up there in Bartlett, Bartlett Yarn up there in Harmony. And we pasture raise chickens for eggs and for meat.
Well, and the thing with the chickens is you move them, right?
We do, yeah,
all the time?
Yeah, they're outside all the time. We have for eggs, we have these 2 mobile coops where there's about 150 birds in each one, and they're in different parts of the farm. They're different flocks of different age. But they are like the best eggs in the world because the pastures are so rich at our place. The pastures are so lovely. We have wonderful grasses. They're happy hens. They live a life outside, so they have the best eggs. And that's probably our signature product is eggs. Everybody loves our eggs. We've gotten lots of awards for our eggs.
Because the thing that's interesting, we've interviewed a number of people so far, and we've had some other farmers who some of them kind of farmed the way their grandparents farmed.
Sure.
And then you see statewide there was such a decline in farmland, and now there's starting to be more coming up again. And what do you think accounts for that rise?
Need. I think that people are really seeing that the industrial food system is so wasteful. It's a waste of time, energy, money, everything. And people are realizing, like, you know what, if I'm going to eat beef and I can buy, a 25-pound box of beef from a smaller farm, and I'm going to just put it in my freezer, and I'm just going to be able to eat from it for 6 months, rather than going to the grocery store, rather than going, to even farmers markets. It's a convenience thing. It's nutrient dense, which is really the important thing. I think that people are really kind of waking up to even more now than 10 years ago 20 years ago when we started farming. We started farming like 25 years ago when it was like, we were like totally weird. Like people thought we were weird for wanting to farm, first of all, because we were young and they were like, what are you doing? Now it's much more popular because there's so much more known about nutrition. There's so much more known about conservation of natural resources. And people they also want to keep our spaces open, right? Like we want to have fields, we want to have farms that have been there for generations to remain. In some places, it's totally appropriate to have farmland go back to forest land. I think that's a good thing in some cases too. But we also need some open farmland so that we can raise food for ourselves and be independent. I mean, we're Mainers. We need to be independent. That's what we do. So I think that in Maine, we're lucky that we have so many young farmers too. Maine has cheaper land than a lot of, especially New England states. My God, Maine has the cheapest land going. And so we've brought in a lot of young farmers, which is really exciting. And I would really love to see more young Mainers become farmers, and I try. I have 3 kids. And I'm hoping that at least one of them is going to be. But, every teenager I talk to, I'm always like, you could farm. we need more farmers. Come farm, you know.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many elements to it, but
Yeah,
it's
of your
coming.
3 teenagers, do they have chores on the farm?
Oh,
that
yes.
are regular, or do they have?
Yeah.
Do they all approach it differently?
They do. I mean, they're all different ages. They're 19, 16, and 13, and so potentially they could be really useful. But you know. But they've been at it for a long time, so, you know, they are teenagers, and we have to respect that maybe they don't want to do the work that, you know, we'd like them to do. So it's a balance. You know, they do have chores every day, and they do get paid for their chores every day. We pay them. And they have their own responsibilities, and, you know, parenting employees is not fun. But we manage. You know, it always changes.
Yeah, but you have interns too sometimes?
We do. Yeah, we have one intern right now. And sometimes we have an intern, sometimes we have an employee. We usually have at least one full-time person that helps. And that person has taken the role of being an intern, you know, who's here to learn, and we house them. And, you know, they receive a stipend and food and board and that sort of thing. And sometimes we have an employee that is local, that lives locally, and, you know, it's their part-time job. So it's changed over the years. It depends on the year. It depends on who we can find. It's hard to find.
Across the board, right?
Yeah, it's hard to find employees in general.
Well, because it's interesting to think about farming in Harpswell in the past and farming now.
Yeah.
And you've done this now for longer than that.
Yeah.
A lot of years, since
Yep.
2006, so 14 years. So have you found that your own methods with the animals and with the crops have changed in that time frame?
Definitely. Well, we started in 2009, so it's been 11 years.
11 years.
Well, I think we've hit a good stride. Like we had started with what did we start with? I don't even remember now. We started with a lot less animals, and so the idea was to build up slowly, which we have done. But we've basically kind of stayed the same with just kind of tinkering with the numbers. We have probably twice the amount of belted Galloway cattle that we used to have. And that is because we could lease more land. Like if we had only stayed on just the Neils Point, we wouldn't be able to grow in that way. So we have more land that we lease. We have pigs that we've kind of dotted the neck with. I mean, we've had pigs down by Mitchell Field. We've had pigs over by Wilson Cove. We've had pigs over at Schofield. You know, we've kind of like expanded here and there. But what we've kind of settled on is that we really like to do. We have some round numbers that seem to work every year, and we sell every single thing. We're always on that good side of selling. We're always selling out. It's like a problem. Like, sorry, we don't have product for people, but we also never have a surplus, and we're always selling out. So we've kind of hit a good stride in knowing our numbers of just how many critters we can have.
So it's always been the animals have been more of a priority than the crops.
Oh, absolutely.
Since the
yeah.
get-go.
We just tinker with crops, really. You know, I sell garlic year round, and, you know, for our winter markets. I experiment with different crops to feed our chickens. I've experimented with growing sunflowers for them. I've experimented with growing dent corn, which is what I'm doing this year for them. I'm really excited about that project because I'm trying to get away from so many inputs from grain, because chickens and pigs are grain eaters, which is a big expense, and it's trucked in, you know, and it's like, you know, I support the farmers who grow the crops to provide the grain. We buy organic grain, and it's northeastern grown. It's either grown in Vermont or Canada or New Hampshire. Some is grown in Maine. Not a lot of it is grown in Maine, but I'd like to kind of get away from that, less inputs, and like I'd kind of like to try more crops to see if I can feed our chickens without buying so much, which is the way that has always been farmed around here. You know, as you try to keep it a closed system. Yeah, but we don't do any huge crops. I think the Dunnings, I mean, back like in the 30s, I believe they had acres in potatoes down in the field, which is just astonishing to me because it is so wet down there. I don't know how they could grow commercial potatoes, but they did. They did. They grew commercial potatoes down there.
Well, and there was a lot of dairy on the neck, right?
Oh my
in the older
gosh,
days?
yes, there was a lot of, and they were all what we would call now, I believe we'd call them micro dairies now, or small dairies. You know, like they were, I don't believe they would have more than 10 cows or so, 10 to 20 cows. And maybe the biggest might have had 30 cows. That's tiny, you know, that's really small. But I believe there were about 30 dairies on the neck at one time. And it was very common for people to have their own dairy cow, which is what I have. I have one dairy cow. I've had her for 9 years. And, you know, it's a wonderful tradition, I think, to keep going. I think it's really important that people realize it's an educational thing I go do with people. I go make butter at different events sometimes. You know, there's something really special about me going into the pantry and seeing the nails where, you know, I think Clem Dunning's mother put her buckets where I put my milk buckets, which is really fun.
Really
you know,
great.
It's great. And I mean, we have one dairy cow. We go through about a gallon of milk a day at my family because we're just big milk drinkers and eaters. And I make yogurt and butter and stuff. But yeah, the tradition of dairy in Harpswell is huge. And
But it's so
really
interesting
fun.
to think about how, like, you consume all the dairy that you have, but they probably had to ship milk to Portland by the train or something.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I believe
how
they did.
marketed versus how you market, because you market on the internet primarily, right? Or do you use the farmers markets and other ways?
Well, in terms of dairy, that's a home dairy thing, and I do have a couple of families who get milk from me, you know, every week. But in terms of all the other products that we have, you know, I think that, how did we even start out? You know, we started out with eggs selling at Morning Glory in Brunswick. And, you know, because we didn't have we didn't have a history at all. So we started selling eggs there. And beef, I want to say it was relatives of ours that bought beef. And like, we did have some neighbors who were interested in us right away that were like, wow, this is amazing, you're doing this. And they bought, and we still have those customers, which I think is amazing. They still buy like beef and eggs every year, and lamb, you know, every year. It's amazing. We've had them for like 10 years. So it's kind of word of mouth too. I mean, people would just come by. They'd kind of come out of the woodwork like, wow, I remember haying here when I was a kid, and well, what do you have for sale? And oh, you know, sure, I'll buy half a pig or whatever. So it was kind of both. It was internet, kind of getting the word out there, and it was word of mouth, and it was, you know, we were really lucky in that way.
Well,
and our families are pretty local, so they, you know, they helped us out. And also Maine Farmland Trust totally helped us out. Like, they were wonderful people. They were helping us with you had to have a business plan. You had to have all this stuff. And I remember them coming and being like, okay, you're going to grow chickens? All right, we'll buy some chickens. So, I mean, it was like it was communities from all over helping us start, which was really neat.
Well, and you have a CSA too, right?
We do, yeah.
So how did you get going with the CSA? With that same kind of idea?
That was the whole idea when we came, was that was the model we wanted to use, was a community supported agriculture project where in the late winter and in the spring, we would put out information saying we were going to sell, you know, beef, lamb, pork, chickens, eggs, and people would put down a deposit for what they wanted to order. And then in the fall, when they were, or fall and winter, when they received their order, they would pay the other half. And so the way that community-supported agriculture works is that you get money up front in the early growing season, and then you get money when you're actually harvesting. So it spreads it out for you. That was our initial goal, and it has worked. It's worked really great for us. That's been, people are so supportive. Like, I mean, we've had customers, there are many, many customers we've had for 10 years that have supported us, which is amazing.
Yeah, so the CSA is mostly meat and eggs.
And eggs.
It's not,
yeah.
it's not the produce so much.
Yeah, exactly,
really
yeah. And, you know, and we've changed things up, you know, over the years. Sometimes you can add a sheepskin, or sometimes you can add, like, we actually raised money to buy a livestock guardian dog through our CSA. which was interesting because we needed a guardian dog because we have lots of wildlife in Harpswell, which is lovely. But our chickens were getting taken out by foxes left and right. So we had in our CSA plan, we had a little box like, donate $10 to purchase a guardian livestock dog. And we raised, I think, almost all the money doing it that way.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, talk a little bit about the predators and what you found. Because I remember you said the hawks were coming to get chickens too,
Oh my gosh,
right?
hawks, yeah, hawks. Hawks and foxes, they're really the ones who prey on chickens. I mean, nothing preys on the sheep. I mean, we had one odd thing happen when we were pasturing the sheep in a different field, actually, in Harpswell. It wasn't even at our place. But foxes and hawks, they like the chickens, they like the meat birds, they like the turkeys. But with Tessie, our guardian dog, the losses have gone down dramatically. I mean, and we've had her for 8 years now. And so for the first year, almost 2 years, she was learning, and we lost a couple still then. But for the last 6 years, we've lost very few. And Tessie is a force to reckon with.
Even from hawks, even from the air.
Yeah, avian predators, they don't like barking dogs.
Huh.
Yeah. And, what guardian livestock dogs do is even though they're kind of like sleeping during the day because they're busy all night, they're kind of out prowling all night, checking because that's when predators are most active. Her ears will perk up if she hears the chickens making an odd noise. Her ears will perk up and she'll start barking, and sure enough, there'll be a big hawk flying overhead, or the crows are alerting Tessie that there's a fox in the woods. Or it's fascinating to watch. We've seen coyotes, but they don't really want to tangle with Tessie, and so they're just kind of on the edges. We have a very nice relationship with coyotes. They're an important predator in our ecosystem. We really need a large predator in our ecosystem. Without a large predator, the deer population goes sky high, the mice population goes sky high, therefore the tick population goes sky high. And so coyotes are really important, and so we protect them really where we are. They don't bother us a bit.
So that's your tick protection? Because I was going to ask you what you did about ticks. So the coyotes
ticks.
take care of them?
Well, they eat a lot of mice. Yeah, they really eat a lot of mice. Foxes eat a lot of mice too, but they also like to eat a lot of chickens. But we don't. Tessie sort of takes care of that for us. Our guardian dog is she is absolutely instrumental to our farm.
And you didn't
really
have
important.
to train her. That's innate in those dogs.
Yeah. She's a Maremma Charplenet's cross, which is a mouthful. But she's a mountain dog. She's very big. But it is innate in her. You don't train them, really. And they're actually not very trainable because they're kind of wild. They're not like the Border Collies that...
Does she go out in all weather?
Oh, yes. She does not. She does not come inside ever. She lives outside. And she has just this wild coat, like the belted Galloways. They have this like huge hairy coat. Tessie does too. And I used to worry about her at night. I'd go out there and check on her, and she would have access to going in the barn. It's like 0 blowing, and she would still be outside. She'd rather be outside. It's just
amazing.
It's just a livestock dog. They take their role very seriously.
Yeah. Do you ever get fisher cats?
We do have fishers. They're actually not cats.
Or fishers.
Fishers. Yeah. We have fishers. They don't bother us either. We had one stuck in a tree once with the Belties. And, I shouldn't say they don't. Before we had Tessie, we had fishers take some chickens once. And I knew it was a fisher because I could see the bloody prints going up the wall.
Oh, yeah.
But, again, they are an important predator too. You have sick porcupines. The only thing that's going to take out a sick porcupine is a fisher. It's all, it's all related, and that's what farming is. You have to understand all these relationships, and honor them. We're farming in their backyard. You have to work with them.
So you started with that philosophy. That didn't come to you from your time of making it work. You came to that.
Yeah, I think when we first started farming, it was, back when we were like 20 or something, 22 or something like that. it was also new, and my, I was never very good with guns. I mean, I just never really thought the solution to a predator problem is to kill them. It just didn't seem logical to me, because if you create a vacuum, it just brings more in. It just, I don't know, it's just understanding natural systems. You just don't take out something that doesn't need to be taken out. If an animal is rabid or something like that, that's different. But, you work with the ecology. You need to work with it, and that's the whole point of regenerative agriculture, which is what we do.
It's a wonderful phrase.
Yeah, because I think what's happening now is that we're really having a great understanding in Maine that you can't extract all the time. Extractive farming is why, we have things like the Dust Bowl, or why we have, pesticide-resistant crops, or why we have food that has no nutritional value, because we've just extracted out of the ground. We've planted, we take, without actually adding, compost to the ground, without adding nutrients, real nutrients, not chemical nutrients, but real nutrients to the ground, without actually moving the animals, to places where they need to be. Move them off the land. You don't want to damage the land. You need to move them off. You don't want to damage the water. You need to keep them back off of bodies of water. You have to, the whole idea is to watch the natural systems and make sure that you're not causing harm. It's a little bit like doctoring, first cause no harm, so if I had a fisher who was bothering my chicken coop, I would try to trap it, and maybe move it. If we have to take drastic measures, we have, but by and large, you can just work with what you have.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Well, and you do a lot of value added. I mean, you talked about making yogurt from the and the first thing I ever bought from you was zucchini relish, which was the best zucchini relish I ever ate.
We were just talking about making that yesterday.
Yeah, it's time. But that has, first of all, I don't know how you managed to do all that you do with the care of the animals, and your husband's working full time, and the kids are busy, and still you're keeping all those balls in the air. But with those value-added products, do you see that growing? I mean, where do you see?
I don't really see it growing.
Yeah.
It's really, that is a project that I just find fun. I just enjoy doing it. I like processing food. I made garlic skate pesto a couple weeks ago. And I did a lot with my mom, who doesn't really want to do so much preserving anymore. So yeah, I don't really see that growing very much. It is incredibly labor intensive. And I mean, I do have a licensed home kitchen, but if I was going to grow any more, I would need a commercial kitchen. And I'm not interested in that. I really much more. I mean, I have so many animal chores to do. I mean, we have a border collie puppy right now. It's like having an infant. It's amazing that I really get anything done, So yeah, so that's really more of just interest to me. I just enjoy doing that. I don't really see that part of the business taking off, because there are people who are doing it great. There's Turtle Rock Farm in Brunswick. She's doing a fabulous job doing that kind of thing. And you really need a commercial kitchen to expand in that direction. Yeah, so I just do it for fun.
That's ideal. Well, are you still working farmers markets? Do you still do farmers markets some?
Well, we were, and then the pandemic hit in March, and so that kind of fizzled out. And in that case, actually, we sold out of everything, so it wasn't like we had anything to sell anymore anyway. Everything went. Everybody was stocking their freezers, and it all went. We're talking about doing it again in the winter, but we're not sure. Everything's kind of up in the air. It's a really small space that we do it in, and we might, for this year, move to a model where people just order online, and then you can go drop it off. And that's a platform, I think it's called Merry Meeting Kitchen. And that's a project from Turtle Rock, who I just mentioned before about the preserved goods. So I'm not sure. We were doing the Portland Farmers Market for a while, which I really enjoyed. But I don't know about that either. It's kind of up in the air. It's kind of weird. It's very hard to plan right now because nobody really knows who's going to do what.
Does the work change dramatically summer to winter?
Yeah, it really does. It's funny. I think May and June are my least favorite season, the least favorite months. It is so outrageously busy and the days are so long. And it's like, you think that it's like, oh, the weather's nice and isn't this great? But it is wildly busy. I feel like I just fall down a rabbit hole every May in June, and then I start to emerge again in August, which is nice. But the quality of the work is different. It's the same. There's almost just as much work, but it's more like hauling hay and hauling water. Because the animals have their winter quarters. You know, all the sheep are in the barn. We have 2 big barns, and we call the big metal barn the new barn, even though it was built in 1971. All the sheep go in there, and that's a lot of work to take care of sheep in the winter in there. They need hay, they need water, they need mineral, they need to be watched. You know, like there's a lot to do there. And the chickens are still in their coops, in their mobile coops, but they get parked up closer to the barn. And they still need hay, they still need grain and water and their eggs collected, and you got to watch for predators and you got to watch for disease and you know, and that's its own busyness. The Belties are up by the barn too, and they need their hay and their water, and they are pretty much just, they're the least work. They kind of just hang out there. And then there's, you know, the planning that goes into the season to come. So it's almost just as busy. It's just a different kind of busy. It's a lot more indoor work. There's a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of water. There's a lot of water carrying and hay carrying.
See, somehow I thought the Belties were for meat, and I thought you took care of them every November. So, but you winter over a bunch of them.
Yes, we do. We winter over about 20 every year.
Wow.
Yeah, between 12 and 20. It depends on the year. But yeah, we do winter a group over at the farm, the smaller ones. So we'll get, you know, they'll be for next year's CSAs. And then, yeah, it's complicated, but we always have some. But it is lovely to not feel like you need to get up at 5 every day, because the sun doesn't get, the sun rises so much later and it goes down so much earlier. So I mean, it is lovely in that everything's a bit cozier, and it does slow down a little. I do tend to hibernate. I do like that. I do like to have my wood stove and cooking, and but it's still busy. The kids are in school and they have activities, and it's hockey season, and it's.
Yeah, but what about this year? I mean, do you think the kids will be in school?
I think to some degree they will be. I do. I think that they're going to do like 3 days a week or something like that, and I'm definitely looking into some programs for the kids to do other stuff too, because Joe needs to do hockey. He needs to, or sports of some kind. That's just the kind of kid he is. Yeah. So that keeps me busy too.
Oh my gosh, I guess.
That's a lot of busyness.
Well,
yeah.
But you used to do stuff with kids, right?
Yeah, we used to have farm camp.
Kids camp?
Yeah, we had farm camp I think we did it for 4 years, which was when my kids were little. And it was so much fun. Some of the best memories I have was from camp. It was so sweet. I loved it. And my oldest girl, Yvette, helped with the camp when she was a little bit older. Like, she did some counseling too. And we had some volunteer girls that would come and help. And oh, it was a blast. We had so much fun. And we did a show with Dave Wilkinson. What was the name of his show? Incredible Maine. And he did a whole feature on our farm camp, which was so sweet. We had such a blast doing that with him. And yeah, it was so fun. We would pick potato beetles with the kids, and we would have kids from all over the place, really, because Harpswell can be quite international. We'd have like British kids, and I think we had an African kid once, which was so cool. And kids from New York City who were up visiting grandparents and had never touched the dirt in their lives, and like they'd start all scared. Miss Laura, I don't want to pick off the potato beetle. And by the time the end of the week was done, they were out there first, you know, picking off the beetles. And oh, we had a blast doing that. But that was a lot of work.
Huge amount of work.
Yeah, and we had, the best of the camp was when I had a woman who did it with me. And she ended up not being able to do it anymore. So when she was unable to do it, I think it was 2016, we didn't do it. We stopped doing it when Jen was unavaiable.
I was just thinking how many parents now would love something like that going into the uncertainties of the fall.
Yeah.
It would be so great.
I know.
Those pandemic pods and things. People are so worried.
I know.
But you've always sort of seized the moment, and you look at your land like, yeah, it's clay, so you pasture. You don't worry about enriching it to grow tomatoes.
Yeah.
I love that. And also the things like you have weddings there, right? You do.
We used to. We don't anymore.
I guess because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Too, huh?
Well, it was that, and it just turned out to be. It was supposed to be a pop-up event, which means everybody's. You have to bring everything, and you know, it just like the bottom fell out of that market because all these like wonderful barns are being renovated for weddings. You know, so it's like the market kind of was like not really there anymore, and we did have some stunning weddings. I think we had 5. We didn't have that many, but the ones that were there were just so beautiful, and it was lovely. But that too turned out to be a little more work than we really needed to add to our plate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, but I just love the way, like, you take advantage. Like, you've got a gorgeous setting and a gorgeous view. So what's more perfect than a spring wedding or a summer wedding?
Yeah. And that was our friend's idea, because they were like, hey, can we get married here? And we were like, well, okay. And then they were like, hey, you should really do this, because this was great. And so that's how that whole thing started.
Yeah, really interesting. Interesting how you do all that.
Yeah. So we don't do that anymore. We were offering workshops too. And
were you? What kind of workshops?
Yeah, sometimes we still do. Well, Joe would do border collie workshops for people. Yeah, for who have border collies and are just getting started with dogs.
Wow, to help them train their own border collies?
Yeah, and to train the people, because mostly it's like kind of people training, you know, okay, the dog will do it. You just have to learn how to talk to the dog, and you're good. But we did that. We did some workshops too. Oh, what else? We did some other ones too. I don't remember now.
To do yogurt?
No.
No foodstuffs workshops?
Not really. No, I don't have a commercial kitchen, so I couldn't really invite people in to do that kind of thing. But I can't remember what other workshops we've done. But we've done some other educational things. I know. We did one on also guardian livestock dogs as well. That was in conjunction with MAFCA. But yeah.
Yeah, well, so talk a little bit about other organizations. You mentioned MAFCA, but do you work with them on other things? Or?
We have in the past. We were MAFCA certified for a long time, and actually this year is the year that I let go of our certification. You know, it kind of ran its course. I feel like in the 90s when we were starting farming, it was such a critical resource for education, for community, for everything we were looking for in farming was like it seemed like a great fit. And as the years have gone by, there are so many more resources now. You don't really need to be involved with a national organization. I mean, MAFCA is a state organization, but they have to also follow the same guidelines as national organic certification. And it gets really nitpicky, and it just got to the point for me with record keeping that I felt like, okay, we don't really need to be MAFCA certified anymore. We never really needed to in the first place, but I really enjoyed being part of the organization. But that said, I just don't need that kind of oversight. I don't mind keeping records. I keep a lot of records, but the kind of records that really is mandated, is very intense. And we were only certified for eggs and crops, eggs and vegetable crops and hay, basically. And it just came, and then it was like, well, should we certify for everything else? And then it was like, then you're looking at like huge fees, because it's all income. It's like a sliding scale. And it just kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, we don't really need to pay out the certification fees anymore, and I just really don't need the oversight.
Right.
You know, it's
Oh,
like,
those things,
you know, you can only handle so much paperwork. But we are still very involved with Maine Farmland Trust. What a great organization that is. I love that group of people. They're fabulous. And they do a lot of great, you know, beginning farmer workshops, and they do a lot of great stuff. So we're involved with them a lot.
Nice.
Yep.
Well,
yeah.
so do you have like a typical summer day? Like you said, you get up at 5 o'clock.
Ish, 5:30-ish. Sometimes
Oh,
I sleep in.
Sleep in,
Yeah.
5:30. Yeah. And then what
Even
do you
later.
do first? What do you do first? You do household or do
I
you
do
barn?
household stuff first.
Yeah.
Joe does outside stuff first. I do household stuff first. Yeah. I mean, and like we kind of split the puppy walk, because that has to happen first. Absolutely first. And, you know, opening up the coops, we kind of split that. But our intern also splits all that with us too. But me, the mom, I have to do a lot of housework first. You know, it's like, it never ends in the kitchen, you know, and everybody needs different things, like in the beginning of days in the summertime. But yeah, you know, it's usually starts off with at least like an hour walk with dogs.
Nice.
I mean, you gotta, like, border collies, you can't just walk them to the mailbox and back, you know, like, they really need to go out there. And so that's a long trip of opening up the chicken coops, checking on the sheep water, or, you know, make sure the fences are up somewhere, or, you know, you heard a weird noise in the woods and let's go check that out, and, you know, something like that. That's long. And then I do milking like around between 8:30 and 9:30 is when I do milking. It's convenient to me because I'm the busy one. Clover's not the busy one, and it doesn't matter to her. So
Clover's your cow.
Yes, Clover is my cow. Then everybody else is out there doing, you know, chicken chores, pig chores, cow chores, sheep chores, and I mean, like, there's 3 people out there doing chores usually at once.
Nice.
Yeah.
So do you keep some kind of spreadsheet of like who's going to do
Yeah.
what today?
Yeah, we do.
So, yeah, that's kind of a difference from the 19th century, right? No spreadsheets
Yeah,
online, right?
yeah. Well, I think back then you could tell your kids to do a lot more than they'll do now. You know,
what is that?
like, I really like to have it on a whiteboard so I can say, look, it's on the whiteboard. You have to do it. You know? Oh my God. Yeah. So it's a pretty crazy list. I think there's 27 things on it in a day. You know, starting with the dog walk at the morning and ending with closing the chicken coops at night. Oh. So there's 27 things that, you know, has somebody's name next to it.
That's a lot.
And with 6 of us, you know, there's not, you know,
Right, but
it is.
Joe goes to work, so he's not there like for.
But he does
something
some of
done
those
at
things in the
1
morning
p.m.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll be there in the morning, and he'll like, one of the things on there is moving fences. And so, you know, that's often got Joe next to it because he'll come home and then he works for another 3 or 4 hours when he gets home.
Well, has his being at Wolf Neck, which is what, 2 years now he's been there,
Yeah,
year and a half?
yeah.
Has that changed any of the way that, I mean, obviously time
Yeah,
and things like
yeah.
moving fences, but other ways have the two
Yeah,
impacted each other?
They have. I mean, we don't do turkeys anymore. That was something that just had to go. So we don't do that anymore. And I mean, we've had to streamline some things. That it's been good. It's been good to streamline it. Like, for instance, instead of filling a pig water twice a day, you know, once in the morning, once at night, we buy, you know, a huge waterer that only needs to get filled every 3 days. You know, things like that. So that's changed. He never really did like the running of the farm stand, but he does almost all of the books, and so I've taken on some of that. So that's kind of changed a little bit. I mean, and just the sheer organization, I've had to step up my game with organization, which is not my gift. So the whiteboard is actually quite new. So those things have changed. Like that kind of thing has changed. And having a puppy just makes everything complicated, because it's not just like a house puppy. He's a working dog, so Joe has to do the training of this puppy, and so that adds another element to what he has to do. I mean, I train him too, but I train him for manners.
Yeah,
know.
different set of skills.
Yeah. And you know, I run him around the sheep a few times too, but I kind of wait until I know that Joe has done something, so I know what to expect from the dog. You know, I don't want to I don't want to confuse
So do you
them.
guys ever get away?
Yeah, we do sometimes. We do sometimes, not that often, but I have a friend who will come and milk clover for me if I want to go spend an overnight someplace, and we do that. And once in a while, we take like a week-long vacation. We don't. Sometimes we have to kind of split vacations. Sometimes I'll take like one of our kids to go see relatives in Arizona, and Joe will stay home because it is just kind of too complicated to expect one person to be able to handle everything. A farm sitter. We have done it before. And it's been okay, mostly, but it's hard for us all to leave at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
We can leave our oldest daughter in charge for an overnight, no problem. For a couple days, she'd be fine.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, so you've been doing this pretty solidly for 11 years. And so how have you seen like the community respond, Harpswell itself respond to you over those 11 years? You've obviously kept a lot of customers for all of the time.
Yeah. We still get people who say, they'll stop in and say, I've always wanted, I've seen your sign for 10 years and, I just want to see what you have, which is great. It's less now, but it's been so nice. People are so enthusiastic about the farm. They really are. And it's really sweet. People will, have family come from out of state or whatever, and they'll drive them by the farm, and they'll walk around with them, and it's really sweet, especially the farm camp families. They'll come back, and like visit. And that's kind of why we keep the farm stand open to a degree. Eggs and other products are kind of going out of there. No meat, but eggs and I have some friends who make some handcrafts and herbal products. But I really like it for people to be able to come. We're still new. Here for 11 years, and it's like, I think to me and to Joe, it's like, yes, we are the farmers, but it's really everybody's land, right? Like it's a beautiful place, and we like to share it. We like people to see it. We like people to enjoy it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
what
fun.
do you see in terms of going forward? It seems like you've got a formula that's working really well for you guys right now.
Yeah.
But going forward, what do you see as the kids get older if they don't stick around and all those pieces?
Oh, it's so hard to say. Well, we won't retire. How old am I? I'm almost 50. We won't retire for another, 20 years or so. So it's hard to say. All of the kids have said in one iteration or another that they have ideas for what they could do there, which is fun. So I'm really hoping. Here's hoping. Hope springs eternal. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to eventually retire and have maybe a little house in Harpswell so I can still work at the farm. Have one of our kids doing something. I don't, it's hard to say.
But in terms of the mix, you like it the way it is. The number of the belted Galloways is good. The number of, you don't want to expand the chickens.
I don't really. I don't really. We only have, it's about 40-something open acres. The rest of it's woods, lovely woodland. And we're really you can't really expand much more with livestock that we have because we don't want to have runoff into Casco Bay. You can't, I don't want to push it, there's no need. There's no need to push it. And, our kids grow up, we won't have so many expenses. God, having kids is so expensive, and that, Joe won't have to work off the farm forever. He didn't work off the farm. We didn't work off the farm for the first 8 years we were here. 9 years? I think 9 years we were here. So, yeah, I think that we're good with numbers right now.
That's great.
Yeah, and
because so many
know what we're doing finally.
Farmers don't find that to be true, right? Do you think that's like a trend? Do you think because people are having more appreciation? Or
I think people change things too much sometimes. I've seen that for sure with farmers our own age, like back in the 90s when there was a group of us going into farming, I feel like there wasn't enough stability in like what they were doing. Like they would gain experience in, you know, say they're growing pigs, they'd gain experience in growing pigs, but then they'd see a market opportunity for sheep. And so they'd just like buy a flock of sheep and get into sheep. And then they'd see a market opportunity for raising, you know, pumpkins, and then they'd plant, you know, 4 acres of pumpkins. And they'd just way overstretch themselves to the point where you're not good at doing any of those things anymore. And then it's really frustrating and depressing. And, you know, and then like the dreams for the money that could have been there for that crop do not materialize because you're new at an enterprise. And so I think there's a lot to be said for just sticking it out. Just, you know, like, okay, we get tired of picking eggs every day, of collecting eggs every day? Yes. But it is like one of the best nutrient sources for people, egg yolk. And it's like we're good at it. We're very good at it. And, you know, do I get tired of it? Sure. You know, but that's life, you know. But it doesn't mean I want to turn away our 75 egg members in our egg CSA, you know, because I'm tired of it, or because I have dreams of like, oh, let's have 50 more sheep and then we'll do this or do that. Like, you know, I think that it's just patience. You just got to be patient, you know, like.
That's really an undervalued virtue, isn't it? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of, I went and visited a farm, and they're younger than me, and they have a small organic dairy farm, and they were like thinking about getting into sheep. And I was like, oh my God, are you crazy? You have a dairy farm. Like, there's just, you couldn't, oh my God, don't do it. I said, oh please. I said, no, I'm not going to sell you sheep because that's crazy. You know, like they didn't really have experience with sheep.
So, but that's interesting that that's a bit of a trend almost.
Yeah.
That people.
Well, people just change things so fast, you know, like it's just like one season to the next, and that's hard for farms. It's really hard to transition. And I think people, I don't think they really fully realize how difficult it is to change like that. I mean, there's a whole educational component, there's a money component, I mean, there's a lot to it. You know, especially if you have a following of something that people enjoy and like I don't think it's wise to over diversify. You know, that's why we cut out turkeys. It was like we loved growing turkeys, and turkeys were really fun. I love turkeys. They're hilarious beings. But it was like, okay, we're not going to be able to do this well. It can't do this well with Joe being gone, you know, in the fall, because turkeys are really like, you have to really be there October, November. It's like critical time. And he just like, we looked at each other and we're like, no, I don't think we can do that. You know, we have to be done with chicken, you know, poultry processing has to be done, you know, at some point. You just cannot continue on. It's just too much.
Have you had any trouble finding good processors for all your animals?
Yes. Well, we hadn't had trouble until recently. We've used a couple butchers, and because of the pandemic, one of the butchers, the one that we kind of landed on and we had a relationship with for the last 5 years or so, he lost all his employees because it was easier for them to take unemployment than work at the butcher. So that was a real scare for us, because, you know, you have 20 beefers going and they're all spoken for, and then your processor says, I don't think I'm going to be able to take them. That was a real panic. That was awful. That was a sleepless night.
Oh my God, yes.
But it all worked out. He did find employees again, and so that was fine. But it was a lot of phone calls for like, oh my gosh, who can take this many cows? Or, oh my God, 50 lambs? Are you kidding? Like, that's a lot.
A lot of processing.
So we had a little scare there.
So really, if you look at all the ways that COVID has affected your farm, it's really huge.
It has. Well, I think the most interesting thing about it, and Joel Salatin is a really famous farmer, he said that, and it's true, he said COVID-19 is the best marketing campaign for farmers in 20 years or longer, because everybody realizes the value of their local farm. Because remember going to Hannaford and there was like no pasta and there was like shortages of everything. that's when our freezers totally went empty. Like we sold everything. Like we would have had steak, and we would have had burgers, and we would have had stuff for the summer. Had it been a normal year, we would have had stuff for people to grill, whatever. But it all got, I think it was gone in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, all of it, which is pretty amazing. So the interesting thing is that when we first had our business plan to start a CSA, this was what our plan was. We wanted to have it truly operate only as a CSA and not do markets and not do a farm stand and that sort of thing. So it's been very good for the food, for local food, I think, by and large, certainly for us. So yeah, that has been one change. And I can't really, other changes, I can't really even think of other
like
changes.
worrying about the processing.
That
was a big change.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And there was some disruption too in grain. We had a little bit of issue, like, okay, what's going to happen with grain for chickens? But that smoothed out. That was okay.
And then your kids were out of school.
Yes, yeah, and that was interesting. Yeah.
Well, that was plus
kids.
and a minus.
It was plus and minus, yeah, for sure. Having more help, reluctant help, but more help.
So true.
Yeah. Well, and it just made it so, instead of my quiet Monday where I have all my accounting stuff on the table and I have my cup of tea and I can go through it methodically, there's like 3 teenagers zooming in and out of the kitchen and papers flying and like, I need to go here, I need to do this. It's like, oh my gosh, my life is just turned upside down. Yeah, so there was definitely that. And Joe didn't work at Wolf's Neck for, he worked remotely for, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, and that was such good timing with a puppy.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
But he was like on the computer all the time,
Is there going to be an
Zoom
end on
meetings.
this puppy being trained, or are you all of a sudden going to be able to say, trained?
2 years. It takes
2
about
years.
2 years to get a dog
Oh, it's a big commitment.
up and running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now, with the pandemic, there were fewer and fewer people from outside coming to Harpswell.
Yeah.
But that didn't affect you guys because you were selling to the local,
Yeah.
the people that live here year-round anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And so not having summer people. Do you have
Yeah.
any sense of what proportion of your summer business in a normal year, not a pandemic year, is people from that are here just temporarily?
Visitors? I would
Visitors?
say it was around like 30%.
Wow, that's pretty high.
It was pretty high, but I will say that I don't know if you would call them, they're like summer residents, and most of them have come back. Like our people that, are part of the egg club, that they're back, they're just in their houses here.
Yeah.
But like the meat sales and all of that kind of thing, just like, people who were here for like, a weekend or something and they're, just visiting Harpswell truly. I don't really know that proportion at all.
Yeah, there'd probably be no way
It's
to
hard
tell.
to say, certainly things just are flying out of the farm stand still. So, yeah. So it hasn't, we're always amazed. Every time I go down to the farm stand, I'm like, oh my God, all the eggs are gone again. And so we're not selling wholesale eggs at all. And typically we do.
Yeah.
Typically we sell wholesale to little stores or whoever, other buying clubs or whatever, but we can't. Like every single egg goes out of the farm stand, which is pretty amazing. It's about 70 dozen a week.
They're fabulous eggs.
Yeah.
They sell themselves after you have the first dozen. It's like
Yeah.
crack on the playground. It's great.
Yeah.
But so do you cook differently for your kids than you ate growing up, or you've always eaten pretty similarly?
I think a little bit. We don't have a microwave at all. I don't microwave things. And my mom, I remember getting a microwave in the 80s, and she did start cooking in a microwave in the 80s. But we don't have a microwave, but we eat kind of similar. It's just that I grow it instead.
Yeah.
Like I do remember eating pork chops quite a bit as a kid, and we have pork chops a lot.
Yeah.
My parents had a huge garden, so we ate like all our own vegetables a lot, and they froze things, they preserved things. So that's kind of similar. They had a beautiful root cellar when I was growing up. It was just a beautiful root cellar.
Yeah, so not that
Yeah,
different. Really.
not that different. I think that the quantity is different. Like, you know, we would have steak like maybe like once, I don't know, maybe like twice a month or something, like, because we have it, and like sometimes it's like we're down to like only one kind of meat. It's like, oh, okay, the freezer is full of beef. I guess we're eating ground beef every day for the next 2 weeks. You know, like, so I think that we eat more meat than I did growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, but the types of food are similar. You know, so it's still
Definitely.
pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so we're wrapping up. So what do
Yeah.
you feel about, how has Harpswell itself been a factor in all this for you?
Well, I think that just the ecology itself is so spectacular. I mean, the diversity we have in birds and wild, you know, just like fauna and flora. I mean, it's just a stunning place to live. And I think that even people who live in Harpswell, sometimes they don't realize just the diversity we have in Harpswell. It's incredible. Like, we've got the ocean, and we've got fields, and we've got woods, and I mean, I feel so lucky every day. You know, we get to go swimming. You know, we get to do like so much. I mean, it's just such a beautiful place to be. I love Harpswell. It's great.
Great note. Thank you so much for being here. That's just fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
Hey ho, roll and go around Cape Horn to San Francisco. Shantyman, sing, boys, pull on the line, and we're back in record time. Now at Bath down in Maine, they built many tall ships. They were paired up and flanked and launched down the slips. The strength of our nation was built on the pine of the mast trees that harnessed the wind. There were schooners and sloops and all kinds of small craft. There were warships with cannon both forward and aft, and the queens of the seas, downeasters and clippers, mighty proud men were their skippers, with their hey-ho roll.